Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing? Enjoying the summit so far? Today, I want to share with you a few things that we're seeing specifically in the space of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I want to start off with painting the vision of where that's coming from. We slowly see things connect. Eventually, everything will connect. We probably all have a smartphone in our pocket using 4G, IoT, mobile devices, cameras, web services, APIs. We create ecosystems around it, and things start to connect. It allows us to collect data points, sense the physical world, understand our customers better, to a point where we can provide insights on large amounts of data in real time, using services like Amazon Kinesis or other real-time data processing services. And why do we do that? Because it allows us to get a better understanding of our consumers, our customers, the physical world. And we can start building machine learning models around those collected amount of information that we're having, to a point where we can use deep learning neural networks to build what you could refer to as artificial intelligence or AI. What it boils down to is moving forward, and this is not a wishful thinking list, this is already a reality. We want to create interactions with our consumers where they interact naturally with us as a company, us as a bank, us as a financial service industry company. We want to use natural language understanding. Talk to a chatbot, for example. We want to have the ability to use our voice or automatic speech recognition. We just saw an awesome demo here, how we can use devices like the Amazon Echo device, which is powered using the Alexa voice services. Making use of computer vision. If you use the new terminal here at Changi, right, you have facial recognition to check in and board your airplane. Moving forward, talking to a computer or having a camera recognize you will be very normal in the way we interact. Just the way we use touch screen nowadays fairly normally, right? We don't worry about why we can touch a screen. Moving forward, voice, speech, computer vision will become a new normal for us. And the other element which is really important, as we build applications for our end consumers, we want them to be personalized. If you watch Netflix, you have recommendations about the movies that you're watching. Similarly, that experience should be exactly the same in the banking industry. I want to have recommendations for my credit score. I want to have the ability to get benefits that allow me to do what is relevant to my life. I want to have the ability to have unique individuality in the programs that we develop, in the applications that we want to develop. Key point to that is machine learning. And our mission in AWS is to really put machine learning in the hands of everyone. May it be an IT developer, a data scientist, may it be an IT professional, it doesn't matter. We want to make machine learning available for everyone. And we want to layer that in a variety of different layers by saying fully managed machine learning service, like Amazon Recognition, Amazon Lex, Amazon Transcribe, Translate or Comprehend. Fully managed services around natural language understanding, voice processing, computer vision, facial recognition. One API call and you get access to those services. Now, if you want to build more specific models, then you can tap onto the machine learning platform services. Amazon SageMaker, Amazon EMR, Spark ML, or Amazon Machine Learning. And if you want to further extend it and say, how about I build my own computer vision models? How about I build my own neural network? There are wonderful frameworks out there like MXNet, Apache MXNet, TensorFlow, Microsoft Cognitive Toolkit, Caffe or Caffe2. All of these frameworks are made available to things like the AWS Deep Learning AMI on our platform for you to use. And of course, for any kind of machine learning that you do, very often you need the underlying infrastructure to not only store and collect data efficiently and securely and cost-effectively, but also process it potentially in real time, cost-effectively with some of the latest and greatest hardware that's available to the AWS services. Now, next thing you're going to ask me, well, how does that now apply to a bank? You know, this all sounds good and stuff. Well, I want to focus on three kind of pillars today. And there might be more, but we want to focus on an enhanced customer experience. We want to focus on how can we be better at what we're running, operational excellence. How can we reduce friction internally within our company using machine learning? And lastly, how can we make sure that we're compliant, reduce risk, mitigate it accordingly using machine learning models? So let's start off with an enhanced customer experience. I already mentioned it. We want a personalized experience. And I also said we want to have a new way of interacting with it. We just saw a wonderful demo of an Amazon Echo device. Amazon Echo is a device that allows us to tap onto the Alexa voice services. It has a wake word, we say Alexa, and then we can talk to it. But the key point here is not about the Alexa voice services themselves, but it's about having a new interaction channel for your consumer. Because we allow everyone to create what we call Alexa skills. And Alexa skills are basically extensions that you can develop for your own company and then can publish it out to the skills marketplace for anyone to use. And there are companies like Capital One or JP Morgan Chase or NAB, which we hear about shortly, or Westpac, for example, here in the region, that create skills that allow you to now use an Echo device to interact with your bank. Think about things like Capital One integrated it with their credit cards. You can ask things like, what did I spend money on yesterday? How much money did I spend on coffee last week? How much money did I spend on taxi or transportation? So it goes beyond just asking, what's my account balance? But the key point here is we move away from the potential ability to take out a phone and look these things up and actually use our voice to interact with these new companies. Now, voice will not replace visuals. Voice will never replace your application or your desktop browser because certain information are better absorbed by looking at it. But it gives us a new ability to quickly create a new interaction channel with my end consumer. And of course, the Alexa skills can sit on top of AWS. You can use AWS Lambda to quickly create a skill as such. The other thing that I would say is, think about how you get better customer insights. Internally, I might want to predict the churn likelihood of an individual customer, do transaction profiling on his credit card transaction or his income, his salary, etc., and you get a good idea if somebody is likely to change his bank. Give product recommendations that are according to someone's salary that he gets on his bank account. Right? That makes sense. Why should I get this wonderful credit card proposed to me if I can't even afford it, or vice versa? How can I do better credit scoring across my customer base? You have the data. Use machine learning to actually crunch through it and understand your customer a little bit better. And then use that as a mechanism to provide robo-advisory. What we want to use here is a tool that allows us to crunch through data and get an understanding using a variety of algorithms. One thing that you could think of is look at Amazon SageMaker. It's a fully managed machine learning service that is built for data scientists, but also developers, to build your own machine learning algorithms on top of your data. And when I say build, it can be by either way using flexible model training, using a variety of open source frameworks out there that you can use, or alternatively, use some of the pre-built, inbuilt machine learning algorithms that we provide you. We provide you things like clustering, topic modeling, principal component analysis, factorization machine or decision trees. All of these are inbuilt algorithms that you can ask SageMaker to run over your data without ever writing a single line of code to make that algorithm work. I can cluster my user base, I can understand, I can predict things. I have things like deep AR forecasting, which allows me to forecast what somebody might be likely to spend on his credit card, for example. I can use image classifier, or I can use neural topic modeling on the conversations that I might have in emails or chats or call center conversations that I have with my customer. This allows me to get insights that are specific to the individual consumer. And now with that in mind, I thought it would be interesting to hear from some of our customers. So it's my pleasure to introduce Kyle McNamara on stage from the National Australia Bank to talk about what they are doing. Kyle.
Thanks, Olivier. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'm actually Chris, a 35-year-old actor from New South Wales. No? You didn't get that? No? He was a character in the video. No one got, oh, come on. You guys are killing me, leaving me up on stage, dropping a joke, and all right. So let me actually introduce myself. Kyle McNamara. I am the EGM of Program Management at NAB. I've actually only been at NAB for the last 5 months. Previously, I was the co-head of technology at Scotiabank, and at Scotiabank, I had the CIOs from Canada, Chile, Colombia, Peru, Mexico. Latin America, the Caribbean, and a digital subsidiary called Tangerine reporting into me. But here at NAB, we have about 30,000 employees who are serving over 9 million customers in just over 900 different locations across Australia and New Zealand. And our focus is, and we are known for being the best business bank in Australia. And I'll jump really, really quickly into it because I really want to get into some of the content. But if you recall from Kevin's, other than the demo, if you recall from some of Kevin's content, Kevin made the comment that it's really difficult to predict the future. And that's actually ingrained in the thesis, in the way that we operate at NAB. We don't believe we can predict the future. But what we believe is that under any variation of the future, speed, flexibility, and cost efficiency is going to matter. Speed, flexibility, and cost efficiency, they're going to matter. And data. Leveraging data to drive customer experience and to drive operational efficiency. So let's talk about that just for a second. First, let's start with speed. And we heard downstairs, heard in the session, deploying an instance on the cloud is dramatically quicker, faster, easier to do on-premise. That's a given. For me, what's really powerful about speed is the improvement to developer productivity. That's what's really, really powerful. And we heard some of those examples downstairs, taking a use case that would have taken 9 months and bringing it down to 3 months. Speed, leveraging microservices, open APIs, automation, that's what drives developer productivity and gives you a massive, massive benefit associated with it. And then the ability to pivot. And at NAB, we've been very public about the fact that we're investing an additional $1.5 billion in technology over the course of the next couple of years. We obviously want to maximize that investment. Cloud, microservices, APIs, automation maximizes that investment because it makes our developers, the ones who are actually implementing code, that much more powerful and that much more able to deploy their code into production. So we can learn from some of the world's best companies. We absolutely can learn from them. First, cloud. And we've heard about it a lot. And it really is everything to us. Cost effectiveness, speed, availability, scalability. And that's the case today. And I guess if there's one point that I can emphasize, think about what it's going to be like 3 or 4 years from now. Think about that. You saw the number of releases that Amazon, AWS is doing. You saw the number of features that are being introduced. Think about the decisions that you're making today, what that's going to look like 3 years from now. There's no doubt with that kind of trajectory, Amazon and their competitors are sinking billions into their cloud offering. Microservices and APIs. These in combination with cloud, I said it already, provide a speed, flexibility, and reusability. And in data, which we'll start to talk about, and in data, they provide a digital exhaust trail. From all those interactions our customers are having with us, we're able to pull that information from those APIs. And then data. Data really is our biggest asset. It's what drives the experience for both our bankers and for our customers. And we can leverage data to do more personalized and or streamlined interactions with our customers through analytics and through machine learning. These capabilities are turbocharging our efforts at NAB. They allow our teams to do more, to build deeper and more seamless customer experiences, and to fuel those teams to streamline and to personalize. So the way we look at it is really, these 3 battlefronts of data. But just before that, one of the core beliefs that I have is that the best run organizations are data-driven. And that's a statement that I would make today. And again, if that's a statement that's true today, imagine what that's going to be like 5 years from now. Imagine what that's going to be like 10 years from now. That's why it's so important to be adopting and starting to experiment with these technologies now. For us, data drives the customer experience and operational efficiency. And at NAB, we look at it in these 3 different ways: hindsight, insight, and foresight. So hindsight, capturing our historic data for regulatory reporting, for our customers, and we've been pretty good at capturing that information in the way because our customers expect it and our regulators expect it. And then insight, taking and leveraging all of that data and letting it guide our interactions with our customers in the moment. We have lots of data. Analytics is turning that into insights. And then foresight, the ability to predict outcomes, driving better decisions. At NAB, there are literally hundreds of use cases in marketing and risk and operations and compliance, all that can leverage and all starting to leverage analytics and machine learning. And that's why it's so powerful. We're building analytics into our business strategy and building all of these use cases. So to do that, we need to build a complete picture of our customers. Banks have historically been good at capturing account and transaction information. Like I said, that's what our customers expect. We present it back to our customers in their statements and their invoices and such. The regulators expect. So banks have been pretty good at capturing that information. Banks haven't, until recently, been particularly good at capturing the customer interaction information across all of those individual channels, all the ways that our customers interact with us, our partner data and our social and third-party and other publicly available data. So we're now starting to capture that. And for us at NAB, we're capturing it within our enterprise data lake. And I'm going to switch now. I call it our enterprise data lake, but we also call it our NAB Discovery Cloud. But before we talk about the NAB Discovery Cloud, let's look at a couple of individual use cases. So first, I'll only spend a second on this because Olivier talked about it already. Amazon, Alexa. So we introduced this at the same time it was brought to market in February 2018. We introduced this into the Australian market. We built it in 8 weeks, really quickly, leveraged some of the Amazon Alexa skills that are available. It allowed us to do things like retrieve a list of accounts, check account balances, retrieve a list of recent deposits. And then we went back, consulted with our customers, and we came up with a longer list of things. And we implemented those. Did I get paid this week? Tell me about my recent deposits in my account. When do I owe my credit card? All of those different types of factors. So this was the first implementation for us of an authenticated virtual assistant. And as part of the solution, we implemented OAuth for security across APIs, and we asked the customer to set a voice PIN for that added layer of security. We're now evaluating on how customers use Alexa and then adding additional comments and insights and suggestions. Very quickly, the technology leverage, there's a number of components, but 2 of the most important, obviously, the Amazon Alexa skill set. We needed that. And then also we built a service which we called Talk to NAB. It's hosted on AWS, and the service orchestrates our API calls and provides a common logging framework to analyze customer usage as well. And then another use case that I'm really, really excited about, this is Quick Biz. And so what is Quick Biz? It's a solution that we offer to our small business customers that are in need of a fast, unsecured loan up to $100,000. Customers can choose the finance option that meets their needs, whether it's a business loan, a credit card, overdraft. The application is entirely online, only takes a couple of minutes to complete. And if you're new to NAB, you can provide a lot of the same information, your financial information, directly from your accounting software like Xero or MYOB, and we're able to do the analysis that way. So traditionally, on adjudication and adjudicating a credit, most credit assessment models would use your financial and behavior attributes. They would use your balance, your payment schedules, the debt that you owe, your credit bureau file. So we took this information, and in addition to that information, we started to concentrate on the transaction detail, specifically concentrating on the text within the transaction. And what could we learn from the text that was within the transaction to help us identify future or the potential for default. And that's where machine learning comes in. So, and most importantly, using that information doesn't require the customer to provide us any additional information. It's already been provided to us. It's just a different way of looking at the data. The team used natural language processing techniques with various machine learning algorithms like random forests and neural networks, and then ultimately came up with the optimal solution, which was a gradient boosted model. And we used a gradient boosted model because it provided the best mix between the performance of the model to help us separate high and high-risk customers from low-risk customers, and interpretability of the model. So in other words, the model allowed us to understand why an application scored high or low, and also provided some additional predictive power, which at the end of the day allowed us to approve more customers while still staying within the overall bank risk profile. Overall, we were able to deliver Quick Biz in 14 weeks with native cloud services from AWS. The process is one of the highest rated based upon the customer satisfaction scores that we take, the highest rated of our digital customer satisfaction, our digital services. It gets one of the highest rated customer satisfaction scores. So, I want to make sure we talk about our NAB Discovery Cloud, because I mentioned it previously. I feel like every presentation needs a slide like this that's got, a couple of those icons on the slide, and here's the one that we've got. So first, our NAB Discovery Cloud. I'm going to first talk about NAB Discovery Cloud, and then the new application for it, which we call Customer Pathway Analytics. So the NAB Discovery Cloud, it's a cloud-based platform for performing analytics and for modeling. And moving to the cloud has really enabled us to do things different than what we were doing before. And I'll kind of state the most obvious. In the traditional data warehousing world, when you needed storage, when you needed compute power, you had to buy them at the same time. With new advanced data modeling techniques, that's much, much more difficult, because typically you get these large data sets, some of which you'll only use a fraction of the data, a small portion of the data within that data set. So you want the breadth of storage, you want that storage solution. And then on the compute side, the same thing. You want the compute power, but you only want the compute power when you want the compute power. And typically you're doing that in short bursts. And so what we're able to do is we use the storage that we need when we need it, and we separate out the compute power. Through EMR, we separate out the clusters and the compute power. And at the end of the day, for our money, we get way more and much more cost-effective compute power to get the jobs done quickly when we want to get those jobs done. And then we still require the convenience of a traditional data warehouse, and we leverage Redshift for that, but we only use it for the specific use cases that have a benefit, rather than needing to store all of the data in order to access it. And then I want to spend another minute, I think my final minute here, talking about customer pathway analytics, because I'm really, really excited about this. When we use the term customer pathway analytics, we're talking about the different pathways our customers take through our ecosystem. And with the number of customers that we have, the number of products that they have, the number of channels that we have, the number of ways that they interact with us, it starts to become a complicated problem. So we're building an event lake in the cloud for each customer that we can utilize to create feature stores and various use cases to trigger interventions. The very first intervention that we're going to focus in on is home loan retention. And these higher customers, higher likelihood to attrit, will route into a customer support team, and they'll focus in on seeing what the issue is and seeing if there's anything that we can do to remediate that issue. More broadly, allows us to capture raw event data, NAB event data, clickstream data, ad serving data, that will store from the on-premise databases, and we'll bring them over into S3, and then also from vendor databases like Adobe, DoubleClick. We'll load all of that into S3. We'll transform the data on EMR Spark using a combination of SQL and coded logic, and then load it back into S3 to complete the event lake. Then we can query directly from that S3 event lake using AWS services such as Spectrum, you can see on the graph. And then we can combine that with the higher level data that will be available in the Redshift database. And allows us to access all of that through one interface. Using these tools, we're able to leverage Jupyter, a Notebook, our Studio to access the power of the EMR cluster. Any other key points I want to make? Then we're also integrating that within our overall Adobe Campaign Management solution, so we can trigger those activities to capture the customer in the moment. And then one other point I really want to highlight is we use Terraform to build the scripts, to execute the scripts, meaning the entire build is automated, and this allows for the environments to be easily set up. So just one other point. At NAB, we're very much focused in on the customer experience. I personally believe that in banking, we're in this phase of simplification right now. And we're about to transition out of that phase of simplification. And the next phase is going to be all about personalization. And for us, that's the importance of really jumping in deep with the AWS and pursuing analytics, machine learning on the cloud. Thank you. Cheers.
Excellent. Love the story. Listening to your customers, understanding them a little bit better. And I like the point that you made about decoupling compute and storage. How amazing is that? So moving from customer experience to operational excellence. What do you do when you want to talk to your bank? You flip out your phone, use a mobile application. Maybe you go online. If you're like me, I generally like to avoid to actually go and visit a branch location. So I pick up the phone, and I call the call center. Now, there are lots of insights that we can get out of it, but very often we rely purely on agents transcribing what they were talking about and putting it somewhere into your CRM system. So how could we use machine learning to do that a little bit better? Well, there are some services that could help you here. Think about Amazon Transcribe, for example. Allows you to transcribe conversations, identify the speakers, timestamp the different things that have been said, give a confidence score around it, and basically transcribe the entire conversation that you might have in a call center. The next thing that you now want to do is you want to push it to a natural language processing service, such as Amazon Comprehend. This allows you now to extract the key entities that have been talked about. Was it an organization? Was it a date? What's the person that we're talking about here? But also a sentiment. Is this customer happy? Is he sad? Is he upset? All of that we can get now out of a transcription that we push to this natural language processing service. And if we tie that back up together with, let's say, Amazon Connect, which is a call center in the cloud, I can transcribe every conversation, use a natural language processing service using Amazon Comprehend, understand what's going on, what are my customers talking about, what are the key problems that gets them upset, or what are the common requests that somebody might have had. And then I can start visualizing that, maybe using a business intelligence tool like Amazon QuickSight, for example, but pretty much anything you'd like. It allows you to understand the key points that customer always requests. Why do I do that? Well, now I can think about, could I automate some of these conversations? And that's where I would make use of something like Amazon Lex, for example, which allows me to build conversational interfaces for your application, and you can connect it via chatbots, like things like Facebook Messenger and so on, but more importantly, you can also integrate it with your call center. So you can have an intelligent voice response. So now you will start understanding what your customers are talking about. What are the common requested kind of problems that your customers might have, or, hey, send me a new OTP, password generator, reset my password, whatever it is. Now you can think about, okay, that's a recurring problem. Could I automate that response? Use the sentiment value, though. If somebody's really upset, you might not send them to the intelligent voice response. The other thing that you can think about is social media was a big component here also. Some other interaction channels that we have with our customers. But not only with our customers, but also think about the effect that it would have into your investments, right? If you invest into a market, equity nowadays is very heavily driven by sentiments that are on social media. Social media tweets can suddenly crack down or push down stocks by 4 or 5% sometimes, or more. So make use of that information. Make use of that information, connect it to things like Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is, and use tools like Amazon Comprehend to understand what is the sentiment that's being talked about, what are the key points that are being talked about a different company who have equity in it, and then I can start visualizing that, or even better, I could use things like AWS Lambda to immediately take action on it, and maybe sell or buy some equity. Now, how about risk and compliance? We haven't talked about that yet. So I'm based in Hong Kong, just next to Macau. And last year, there's a new requirement that ATMs now need to have in Macau. KYC, know your customer. ATMs are now equipped with facial recognition technology, and this is to combat anti-money laundering, or combat money laundering, I should say. Moving forward, facial recognition will become a natural component of the transactions that we have with our bank, so that you as a bank know who's your customer and make sure that it's not someone else that might want to get into that account. And again, there are technologies out there that you can use. You can build your own models, or, and that's the first starting point that you always want to look at, is there a fully managed service that could help me here? If you haven't heard of Amazon Recognition, it allows you to make a single API call to understand on images and videos, what kind of objects do I see, what kind of faces do I see, do I know this person, can I recognize this person? But it also allows for things like text and image. Do I need to scan a certain ID card? Now I can extract information out of it from that picture that somebody might have uploaded. And lastly, if you want to actually build your own model, always think about the fact that training a model is computationally intensive, should do it in the cloud, absolutely. But some of the inference, that inference of the facial recognition on the ATM, might sit at the edge. There are services like AWS Greengrass or AWS IoT that can help you to actually push your models down to the edge, run them there, but then only get the information back, I saw this person at that point in time with a certain confidence score, and use that for reporting purposes. So think about how you can overall use some of these technologies to reduce fraud, do transaction profiling. Is there something that doesn't look like you normally have in a transaction profile? There are companies like fraud.net that use Amazon machine learning to understand and detect fraudulent transaction on credit card or payment gateways. Use things like voice profiling or conversation profiling. With Amazon Comprehend Transcribe, you can identify speakers, you can identify what people normally talk about. If there's a variation between what you normally talk about, it's probably another person calling on your behalf. Use things like facial recognition or document recognition with things like Amazon SageMaker, Amazon Recognition to understand what's going on. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Chai-Kit Cheong from SignUpSIS, startup here in Singapore, to talk a little bit about what they are doing. Chai-Kit?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Oliver. Hello, everyone. My name is Chai-Kit, and I am the co-founder and CEO of SignUpSIS Solutions. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about what SignUpSIS is all about, as well as what products we offer, and how we use AWS, as well as what type of customers that we currently engage with. Now, you've seen in the slides here, RegTech for FinTech. So basically, SignUpSIS is a RegTech company. By RegTech, we mean regulatory technology. So we want to use technology to solve regulatory problems. Some of those problems that Olivia has mentioned, and we're going to like to throw a spanner into what Carl has earlier mentioned. One is simplified banking, but unfortunately, regulation and regulatory requirement is going to make it more complicated for everyone. Now, can I have a show of hand? How many compliance officers are there in this audience? Any compliance officer? 1, 2, 3. What does that mean? Compliance not interested in technology. That's bad for all of us, right? So my background is actually compliance. I've spent a long time as a regional head of compliance for an Australian bank, not NAB, unfortunately, Macquarie Bank. And I look after the entire regional compliance function for Macquarie Group for quite a number of years. And before that, I was an auditor with Pricewaterhouse. So basically, I have a long track record of compliance experience. And then back in 2014, we founded SignUpSIS to basically provide technology solutions to simplify compliance processes, to automate compliance processes, which I'll talk to in a minute. So the theme for me this session is really about RegTech for FinTech, promoting regulatory inclusion by using technology. Now, what do I mean by regulatory inclusion? So we service small, medium enterprise companies in the region, okay, who plays in the financial services sector as well as non-financial services sector. So we target the smaller companies who wants to be able to better comply with their regulatory requirements in a cost-effective fashion. All right, so that's what we do. So we want to be able to promote regulatory inclusion by making it easier for people to comply with regulatory requirement in a cost-effective manner, okay? Now, who is SignUpSIS? As I mentioned, we founded the company in 2014. And at the moment, we have about 500 plus B2B paying clients. So we're already off the proof of concept. We have existing recurring paying clients for the SaaS services that we provide, or the RegTech SaaS services that we provide. Overall, we have about more than 3,000 active users globally using the service. So B2B who needs to comply with regulatory requirement, particularly around anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, and KYC requirements. And we leverage AI, automate the manual, and digitize the analog. That's basically our tagline. So we are kind of a leading RegTech company, based in Singapore. We develop most of our things internally. We leverage off AWS services to be able to provide cost-effective solutions to our customers in the KYC, know your customers, AML, anti-money laundering, CTF, counter-terrorism financing. We're deployed on AWS Cloud with REST APIs and all that. We don't need to define all these areas. So basically, our clients, can be varieties of different types of participants in the financial services sector, ranging from insurance companies, listed REIT managers, financial advisors, remittance companies, payment companies, the smaller pawnbrokers, to the non-financial services companies like your accountants, your lawyers, your corporate services providers. There are a couple of other industries that we're trying to get into, which is interesting for us as well. Now, with this large spectrum of diversified customer base, which is the 500 plus, we then have to figure out how we service them properly. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about one important factor. The fintech companies, the fintech sector, as well as the cryptocurrency companies that are very, very active these days. So these are the customers that we go for, and these are the customers that have used our service, have been using our service. Now, we're quite proud to say that in 2017, we are named as one of the RegTech 100 companies in the world, and we're one of the founding member of the International RegTech Association, as well as the only Singapore-based company that is a founding member of the RegTech Associations in Australia. Now, what do we do? So as I say, we're in the compliance space, we're in the regulatory space. Now, this diagram basically sort of is made up by me, so basically it means that as regulatory requirements goes up, happiness goes down, efficiency goes down. I'm not sure whether people can disagree with this diagram, right? Because no one is happier with more regulations, right? Because the business will have to comply more, means you need to put more resources. Your businesses cannot, your accounts cannot be open. You have to be doing more checks, you have to do more screenings, and you have to put in place more documentation, right? So business is not happy. Compliance people are also not happy because they have to work much longer hours, they have more things to do, they have more checks to carry out, for example. Regulators are probably not happy as well. I'm not sure if there's any regulators in the room, but I don't believe regulators will be happy by handing out more regulations to the industry because they have more things to check, they have more enforcement actions to do, they have more investigation to do. So no one is happier. Customers definitely will not be happier as well. So we think that with regulatory requirements going up this way, happiness goes down, unfortunately. But by using technology to help SME customers, small, medium enterprise customers, fintech, cryptocurrency companies, we help them to overcome regulatory hurdles in a more cost-effective manner and a more efficient manner. Up to 90% of time saved in some cases. Now, Olivia talked a little bit about AWS recognition. This is one AI component of AWS service that we have actually built into our platform. Okay, facial comparison, label detection, which means that AML KYC can potentially equal to happiness. Now, how do we do it? Now, as said earlier on, there's always going to be a diagram here, so I won't go into too much detail about what these are, but broadly speaking, there are 3 areas that we want to achieve. Reduce repetitive work. We use CloudWatch, EC2 System Manager, Guard Duty. Ensure service availability, Route 53, the gateways, load balancer, RDS, and the Elastic Cache. And for security, because we love the AWS approach of shared responsibility. Sorry, I should go back one slide. And the shared responsibility is something that is very important to us because we believe that AWS look after the infrastructure, you know, the virtualization security aspect of what they offer. And it is our responsibility as a service provider to make sure that we deal with the VPC that we're given and make sure that we build our microservices or our services and store our customers' data securely without commingling of each other's customers' data together into the same database. So, which is why you can see that just below the public net, the private subnet, you have got each of these little blue and green boxes, and that basically means that when we deploy our services to our customers, we basically make sure that each of them it has its own EC2 instances. So we maintain data segregation and no data commingling for our customers. Now, for the future, artificial intelligence, as I said, we're already using recognition for some of our customers. And as Oliver has mentioned, text recognition, Amazon Transcribe, video recognition are areas that we think that from a compliance AML perspective or onboarding perspective or demonstrating that there's ongoing continuous due diligence that's being performed and about knowing our customers, these are areas that we can certainly explore and certainly build on top of what we currently offer to our customers. SageMaker is one of those things that we can potentially write our own ML models, as well as comprehend to basically contextualize text, contextualize regulations, contextualize to try and understand and make sense of what this piece of document actually means. So these are areas that we think will potentially revolutionize how AML, KYC, and CTF is being performed currently by the industry. And we focus to make sure that the smaller customers are not missed out in this pursuit of the technological advancement globally. We want to make sure that they are being kept up to speed by offering that service at industrial strength level, but at the same time, keep it at a very, very cost-effective fashion for them. Okay, now with that, I know my time is up. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you. Really great to see Singaporean startups do some awesome things using machine learning and artificial intelligence. I want to leave you with one last word. We looked at a lot of different things that you can do around many different areas. Start simple, right? Make sure that you build out your data lakes and see how you can bring it from scenarios like Amazon S3 to your machine learning platform, to your Hadoop Spark clusters, to your SQL queries that you query on flat file data, run business intelligence against it, and then start using machine learning and AI services to get better insight of your customers, reduce the operational complexity, and reduce risk. With that, thank you very much for your attention all. Thank you.